Now that we have our bump map, I'm going to show how to make some parts shiny and some parts matte. Okay, right now you can see that if I move this around, I can see that specular highlight, which is basically the shine that's produced by the light, is pretty even throughout the whole thing. So what I'm going to do is if I right click, go to material attributes, the color, that's the picture of the bricks. The bump map is the illusion of depth. And now I'm going to go to something called specular color. And with specular color, you can see that if I bring this all the way up, now it's super shiny. And if I bring this specular color all the way down, it's super flat. Okay, so I want to have some parts shiny and some parts flat. And to do that, I'm going to go into Photoshop. And I'm going to hide my bump because I don't need that anymore. But this time I'm going to introduce some graffiti. And you can see that I've got the graffiti layer. And now if I just saved it like this, that's just the color information. And you can see that I have graffiti a little bit transparent here. But I want to make this graffiti look like it's wet. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to think only in terms of black and white. So if I go back to Maya here, I can see that it looks like specular color. White, if I bring that all the way up, I can see looks wet or shiny, and black looks flat. Okay, so I want only parts of it to be shiny. So that means the graffiti I want to be white, and the brick wall I want to be matte. And if you don't have this section down here, make sure that you set this to blend, because only blends have this specular shading. Okay, so now I'll go back to Photoshop and I will hold down Control and click on this icon or this thumbnail right here, and it's going to select what it has there. And now we'll create a new layer, and on that new layer I'm going to paint with white. So I just clicked on my fill, I click on the small icon, and now I can flip that so white's on the front, and now I'm going to fill that. And now I'm thinking, once again, I'm only thinking about the specularity. So I'm going to now select and go to inverse, and I'm going to paint the rest of this black. There we go. Now select, deselect. That is actually my specularity map. Okay, so if I'm going to name this one specular. Okay, and I'll go ahead and save that. File, save scene as, or save as. And this is going to go into my projects folder, into the source images, save it as a JPEG, and I'm going to call this bricks_specular. Okay, and then on this, because I'm adding graffiti, I need to add that to my color wall. So I'm just going to save this, go File, Save As, navigate to my projects folder, and I'm going to call this bricks color graffiti. Okay, great. Now if I come back to my brick wall, I'm to add the graffiti. First I'm going to change the color map. So currently you can see I've got something plugged in there, so I can click here. I'm going to go to the folder, and I'm just going to grab my new one, bricks color graffiti, and there it is. So I can see that the graffiti is now on there, but it looks like, once again, it doesn't look right because the graffiti specularity is the same as the bricks. Okay, now I'm going to right click, go to material attributes, and that's going to get me back to this kind of the material that I'm constructing here. And now I want to add the specular color. So where it says specular color under specular shading, I'm going to click on the file that's associated with it and go to File. And now if I come and open this up, I'm going to go to Bricks Specular. Once again, white is going to be the only place that it should be shiny, and black has 0 shine. Aha! Look at that. So now it looks like the paint is wet and shiny, and the wall is not. Okay? Now maybe that's a little bit too extreme. Okay? Maybe I do want some of the shine on the bricks, and maybe I don't want it to be as shiny on the paint. So what I could do is I could go back into Photoshop, maybe grab this specular, and go to the brightness contrast. Let's see. Actually, I think I'll just do this. This will be easier. I'm just going to do kind of a dark gray in the background. And then I'll do a kind of a light gray for this. Oh. There we go. So now it should be kind of specular on the bricks and then mostly specular on this. So I'm going to save as. And once again, desktop. And go to my projects folder. And I'm just going to call this Bricks Specular 2. And now, if I wanted to, I could go find that. Or if I saved it in the same location, I could just type in a 2 here and hit enter, and it should update. Okay. So now you can see that the bricks kind of have a specular on, and the wet paint, I feel like, looks more like wet paint and less like a mirror. Okay, so you can see that I've got very localized area. And if you want to kind of visualize what that would look like without the color map, if I go up to here to color, so I just right click, go to material attributes. If I go to color and break the connection, it's kind of hard to see, but when I rotate this, you can start to see the specular area on it. And you can see maybe I break the bump map, and now it's a kind of even easier to see. Okay, so that's just the specular map. And then I can go add the bump map back on. Let's see, bricks bump. And if that's too intense, I'll just right click, go to out normal, and then I'll bring this down. Yeah, there we go. And now we can see that the wetness on that. That's cool. Right click, go to material attributes, and then I'll add the color back on. Normally I wouldn't obviously take those off, but I feel like when you're learning this, it's good to see just kind of what the channels look like independently. Oh, that's just the brick color. That's interesting. You can see that that's what it would look like if I didn't have the brick with the graffiti color. There it is. Now everything's kind of working together properly. Okay, great. In the next lesson, I'll show opacity.